Okay, so I did it. I did another memory thing. So first, I'll just talk about the original Jarvis memory, right? So it works. It works okay, right? So I've been using it, and it it does store everything full context in the database in Qdrant. It does work okay, right? So I'm happy with it, but part of the thing that I didn't like was that it wasn't working exactly the way I wanted, right? So I wanted it to like serve up like pertinent information instead of like just storing, like I did want the full context, but I also wanted some kind of, narrowed down context, but like smart, right? So what I did was is I created this thing called true recall, right? So now this is really it's I think it's freaking awesome, okay? But you be the judge, okay? So now what this does is let me see, where am I? Okay, so I asked Kimmy to put this together, and the first simple diagram isn't really that simple. Um, maybe you can sort through that. I know what I did, and this is still kind of foreign to me, but here's a kind of a simpler version. So let me just kind of lay out the basis of it, okay? So the problem I was having is I wanted it to do like, sorry, someone's texting me. I wanted it to do like, I wanted prompt injection before. So when I ask a question, I want information to be provided to the AI before it responds to me. So part of the problem is whenever you create a new session, well, let me back up. Whenever that compacting starts, my AI gets all sorts of wonky, right? Like it's like all kinds of problems whenever compacting starts. And I basically have to create a new session, and it's just a mess, right? Because then I have to like explain everything again. I mean, I can say go search the database where I can get the information back, but there's a little bit of back and forth to get there. And I mean, and it's okay. Like at least with Qdrant, everything is in there and everything's searchable. But the problem is it eats up context, right? So even with Kimmy 2.5, there's 256K of context, and it fills up relatively quick. So basically, whenever OpenClaw loads, it fills up like 20K context off the jump, right? Because it loads in its its basic system prompt, its all the different things that it has to have contextually in memory to operate the way it does, right? So that takes up 20K. And then every time it print, I keep telling this one, stop putting so much on the screen because all that text takes a toll, right? Because then it's gets to be sooner before the context compaction starts happening, right? So let me just break into this. Okay, so again, I made this to work with the Jarvis memory. Okay, so if you're using the Jarvis memory, you can opt to use this or not. Now, I just got it all working and worked all the bugs out. And I mean, it took like 4 days, right? Like I took vacation Thursday and Friday to work on my house. And instead I end up sitting at my computer doing all this stuff back and forth because it's so painful. And there's one thing, I made some notes and I'm going to try and go over each one. But first thing is, so just about my process, right? I switch models. Okay. So like I'll work like Kimmy 2.5 is like my main go-to, and it works very well for a lot of things. But sometimes it just gets like this weird hang up when I'm trying to code something or have it do something. It sometimes misses. So for example, when I had Kimmy build out the ready for GitHub. So I created this for GitHub, and then I said check it for errors, and then I tell, like, one thing I've been doing now is like validate it 4 times, and I say step by step, one at a time, and that's actually been working a lot better because she'll find more errors. But even after she says it's flawless and perfect, there'll still be some errors somewhere. So what I would do is I would stop Kimmy, and I would start up a different model. So I don't want to change the screen because I want to talk about these. So I got everything kind of just, that's why I'm not touching anything, because I got it kind of laid out so I could like demonstrate. But I'll unload Kimmy and I'll reload like Minimax, and then I'll tell Minimax as Kimmy, you know, still same name, but I'll say, hey, validate all this stuff, and then it'll come back and it'll find errors. So if you're doing things like development stuff, I would highly recommend one, like Kimmy is my go-to, like when it comes to just like conversation and like ideas and getting things done. Kimmy is fantastic. It's a fantastic model, right? But I'll end up switching to Minimax, or I mean, I think Minimax is my fallback, or my validation model. I kind of think of it like you have an expert and I'm getting a second opinion, right? Like, okay, yeah, you think it's perfect, but let me get a second opinion. So then I'll use Minimax. Anyways, so this is what's freaking really cool about this true recall. So basically what it does is, okay, so it does a lot of things similar, but different. Okay. So it's a different collection and a different embedder. But what it does is, in this one, whenever it still saves everything to Redis, every line of your context. But then on the cron job at like 2 a.m. or 3:30 a.m., whatever, it actually, at one of my other local models, in this case, I have it set up for Qwen 3 instruct, right? Like a 3B model. I put a system prompt for Qwen to basically take all the day's context. Okay, so here's the thing, right? So it makes what's called gems, right? So instead of just dumping, now I like both. Okay, so don't misunderstand me. I like both of these. I'm using both. Okay, so I have full context in Kimmy's memories, but then the new true recall, Qwen picks up the entire day's worth of conversation at like 3 a.m. So full context, every sentence that was sent back and forth. I even have it filtering out like Kimmy thinking and stuff like that. So just our conversation. Then it evaluates our conversation and says, okay, what's important? Like it validates it. Like I'll ask here, I think actually she said it somewhere up here. Okay, so here's the things that it decides on. So if there's a decision made, that's a gem, right? So if I say, I like this better, then that's a gem. If there's a technical solution that gets fixed, that's a gem. A preference, I like this, I hate that. So this is like criteria for gems, okay? So it's kind of like, if you think of it like important bits, right? So basically Qwen goes through, so because it has the entire day's conversation, one of the problems that I found is if it just evaluates one sentence, you can still lose the context, right? You still don't know what it's talking about if it's just looking at one sentence. I have it taking Redis line by line conversation with me and Kimmy and processing the entire days of context. So the Qwen model has 256K, contexts also. So it can pull the entire day's context and then extract out these important bits, and they become gems, right? So now it puts it back into it puts it into the true recall collection as gems. And here's the kicker, right? So there, okay, so some of the things I found out, people commented, I noticed that there was a Lance DB that was kind of built in to OpenClaw to do certain things, kind of something like this, but different, right? But it did leave a hook to be able to inject a context before, it did leave a hook to be able to inject context before an AI responds. So now, okay, so you have my full day's context in Redis. It gets sent over to Qwen. Qwen evaluates it and says, okay, is this like important bits? I want to only capture the important bits. I don't like the idea of I like that Jarvis is full context, every word all together. So I like that. And I don't want to get rid of that. But I do want something like this true recall, so that all the important things are put in, but the entire conversation is evaluated by another agent. Now, Qwen runs locally, So it just passes it to my Olama that runs local. So it doesn't even leave my network. Okay. So it evaluates everything, puts it in as gems into Qdrant, and then it's able to actually inject them in a conversation. So when I ask a question, if it matches something, here's where it gets injected, right? This is so freaking crazy. Okay, so you can tailor it to, okay, since I've showed that, now I'm going to stop it and I'll show you. So I'll show you where it's adjustable, right? So so now if I come down here, so this gets entered in it, and down here in so there's the hooks that were added. So it was part of the built-in OpenClaw, but it does rewire it for this new hook, right? So where is okay, it's a plugin. Okay, so here is the max recall results. So if it's grabbing a gem, again, the gem is the contextual aware gem, like, I don't know, like a diamond gem, you know, that it can, so I can say, okay, it only finds them if the score, the recall score, basically how close it is to the conversation that or the question that I asked, how relevant is it? So it can go from like I guess 0.1 to 1.0. So if it's above 0.5 relevance, it will inject it before Kimmy responds to my question. Okay, and this is the number of results. So like there might be, you know, 5 things that are related to some memory decision that I made. Well, this is where you say, okay, this is where you say how many to inject, right? So how many gems do you want to get injected when there's a match? And the match has to be over 0.5 on the scale, whether it's, you know, whether it matches the context of my question. Okay, so it's tunable, and you can also choose what, so up here is the model that it uses to build the gems, right? So if you want to use a different, oh, I thought it was the 8. Okay, I don't know, maybe that's not where it is. I haven't really looked at this very much, but so that's that, right? So now, so here's kind of so I had her make that flow. It didn't really look great, right? So then I had her make a more simple one, okay? So here's true recall before and after. So before, no memory system. Should I use Redis or Postgres, right, for caching, blah, blah, blah. 3 days later, what database did I pick for caching? I'm not sure. See, now in this case, I still have the other Jarvis memory, so I could say search Q, right? But in this case, she'll generally say, I'm not sure. And so the magic behind the scenes, right? So the gem, right? So now, whenever I ask the question again, should I switch to Postgres now? The memory's injected and it says actually on February 22nd. So it's kind of like a real-time memory injection of only like gems, key facts, important things, decisions, like all that, this category, right? So all these different decisions, like it's only like high level important things, and it's extracted from an entire day's conversation. So context matters, right? All the important things, like you could say something like, if I say Redis in a casual conversation, that might not be important, but if I say it with context around it that makes it important, then it would be put in as an actual gem, right? So important things. And that's why the model, that's why I wanted to have it go to an LLM so I made this system prompt for the LLM. So its job is, it's a curator, right? It's called a curator. So basically it takes the whole day. It basically is like the heart of the gems, right? Because it makes all the different important bits gems. Okay, so anyways, and it's all tunable, right? And it's all free, and it all runs local. Okay, so yeah, so that's that. So that's pretty much it, right? So I put it on GitHub, so you can install it. And again, it does work with the Jarvis memory. The only thing is that if you already have Jarvis memory installed and you decide you want, now you can continue to use Jarvis memory standalone. It's fine. But if you already have it all installed, the only thing you can install this one. The only problem is the Jarvis memory. It'll erase Redis whenever it does its job. And then when True Recall goes to do its job, Redis is emptied. So the only thing that you have to do is you just have to tell one of them, which you can pick, not to erase it, and let the other one that runs later, let it erase it. So I guess if that makes sense. There's a couple other things. So that's pretty much all the True Recall. But there are some things that I just wanted to mention about how I do these projects and stuff. So basically, and actually I think I'll go on here and I'll just stop this for a second. And okay, so inside of my directory for OpenClaw, you have your workspace. So I'll go cd workspace. Okay, so now inside here, there's a bunch of junk, but one thing I want to point out, so I created a couple folders, right? So I have, it's actually hidden. So I have, what is it? Projects. Okay, so in here I have a hidden folder, projects. So in here, well, that's kind of a mess. Okay, so in here, inside of projects, oh, I thought I went into it. Okay, sorry. So inside projects, I have a projects and I have a main underscore projects. So all the projects that I work on, I have in here. So I'm working on Alexa voice, some cron stuff, email stuff, GitHub stuff. Just, that's a lot of just notes. The Mattermost chat, Open Web UI. Well, I mean, here's all the stuff I'm working on, right? So all these different, here's True Recall. I think this is left over because I think inside there I have in and out. Some of there's just some junk in here, but one thing that I do whenever I'm working on a project, so well, okay, so in here, so one thing that I do is I create the project, and this is where I'm working on the project. I create a README MD, okay? And so whenever I'm working on this project, I'll be like, I'm going back and forth with Kimmy, blah, blah, blah. And I'll be like, okay, update the README with all the stuff that we did and all the different changes that we have, right? So so I put a readme.md in all of the projects, right? So whenever I'm working in there, I keep I don't want to have to remind it. I mean, the memory stuff works great and it's more of like a daily driver kind of thing. But the thing is I don't want to have to, I rather just, I like having this MD file because MD is like its normal thing. So I make all these MD files in the project. I also have a session MD because a lot of times whenever that memory compaction starts, you need to start a new session, or at least whenever I do, it's a train wreck whenever that memory compaction starts happening, right? So I create a session.md so that in this project, when I'm working on it, every once in a while, I'll be like, hey, back up everything we did, append it to the session MD. Also, whenever I'm like switching models, it loses all context and I'll create a new session. I'll also create like a validation MD. Okay. So I'll say, all right, create a validation.md file in the project folder and put all the notes on what you would check to make sure that this is all working properly. So then I'll change models to Minimax and I'll say, hey, inside that folder, there's a validation. Is that a good validation file? Like, is that a good validation test, right? And it'll say, oh yeah, this is great, blah, blah. Okay, do that. And it'll do it. And then I'll switch back to Kimmy, blah, blah, blah. But these little MD files, I have them all over the place because it's just more context information, right? Because, it's just so helpful, right? It's very helpful. But that's kind of my project layout. Let's see, there were some other things. I have notes. The curator runs locally. Changing models, I talked about that. Project structure, and use MD files. Yeah, so that's that's pretty much it. Oh, and there's one thing I want to address. I did get a lot of comments about um, like I meant for this to be portable. Okay. Like both of these, I named them OpenClaw because, you know, you got to get product recognition, all that stuff. So people click on it, and, you know, Jarvis is like a Hollywood thing. So people, it gets some clicks. But the thing is, I didn't make it like for me. Again, what I do is I have a regular job. This is not my job, right? I do this for fun, and I've always done these projects at home for fun, and I struggle through them, and then I have no one to really show them to, and no one benefits from it. So I feel like putting them on YouTube, you know, people can benefit from all the pain that I struggle through. But the thing is I made these memory things not strictly for OpenClaw. The reason I made them external to OpenClaw, and the reason I don't want them like as part of OpenClaw built in, is because I want to create all this memory structure, because OpenClaw might not be the biggest thing in 6 months or a year. Maybe there's some other, I don't know, I'm having trouble thinking of like some random name of some AI, but maybe some other one comes out that's, you know, open source and you can run at home, all that local, meets all my criteria for checks, right? So I want to build up that memory. I want it to be familiar with with the way I do things, my structure, like the software that I have. I don't want to have to get a new AI and then go through telling it everything over again. So the reason that they're portable is, I mean, the reason they're external is because I want them to be available for any other, you know, I can connect it up to Open Web UI right now. Actually, I plan on making a video about, you know, connecting that same Qdrant data collection to Open Web UI. I have a whole bunch of videos planned. I don't know if I'll ever get to all of them, but you know, that's one of the things I want to do. But like I said, this is meant to be portable. It's not meant to be strictly tied to OpenClaw. It just is right now because that's what I'm using and that's what it's kind of designed for. But again, it's designed to be portable. It's designed to go with me whenever OpenClaw is not the best thing anymore, right? I don't know, maybe it'll be the best thing for a long time, but either way, I want to be able to take the brain and memories that I've accumulated over however long, and I want to take them with me to the next thing, so that I just tell it, hey, connect to this, there's your memories, and boom, you know, all the stuff that I've struggled through and fought with and told it about, it's all remembered, right? And then LLMs, they're going to get more, you know, dense and things like that. They're going to be able to run better eventually. You know, that's just how it works. So I want to have all my memories available. And this is kind of why I did it this way, right? It's not meant to, and so it's not meant to replace the memory, how OpenClaw works. It's just meant to complement it, right? So it's not meant as a replacement. It's meant as an improvement. And, you know, that's that. So if you made it this far, thanks for watching. Take care.